Welcome to video 1 of Eddie Reviews Random Shit. This first thing that we're going to review right here is a Kahr CW9. This is a pocket style carry gun, compact, subcompact market 9mm. I'm going to go straight into the review. I don't want to turn this into something where I start talking about weight, height, width. You could see that on hundreds of other videos. Plus, none of that really matters to me, as something that is 1 inch versus something that is 1.1 inch isn't something that's going to be relative to me. I want to talk about the function of the weapon and my thoughts of it. So first of all, this gun has been safety checked. You could tell because it's taken apart. But one thing I want to tell you right off the bat about the Kahr is that it feels like it's a rip-off of a Glock. When you look at it, when you see it, it functions very similarly to a Glock, striker-fired weapon. If you look at the internals in here, you have a striker here. You have a this is your striker. You have your plunger right here to actually release and release the safety on the weapon, and then internal spring. Outside you have your ejector, and then just an atypical normal slide with a lollipop style sight here. So one thing I wanted to say about this gun first of all is that this is a polymer framed firearm. So for those of you that don't know much about firearms and polymer frame, that means that this piece is basically a high density plastic, and then the material that actually fires the gun is steel, stainless steel. A lot of weapons are like this. One thing I wanted to point about the gun is the fact that it has plastic rails. This here is what the weapon actually, the frame of the weapon actually slides on, and they're plastic. I don't know if I like something metal sliding on something that's plastic as far as durability. I know that it's polymer, and this is actually listed on the Kahr website where people have asked about this, and Kahr says that these two metal rods up here, these right there, are actually what the slide rests on. And if you look at the slide itself, it has a unique design characteristic where it is beveled right here. And this is what it says. It supports most of the weight. The rest is a dust cover, per se, says Kahr. So, while I have the gun broken apart, I want to show you the firing mechanism in the Kahr and what makes the trigger on the Kahr so unique. People talk about the Kahr and they'll talk about the trigger, and on a Glock, your trigger pull pulls in, stops, and then breaks. So in, stops, and then breaks. You could feel it. But on a Kahr, it's progressive, meaning that when you pull the trigger, it comes in and snap. So it's the same weight, the entire pull, and I'll show you why. If you look here, you'll see as I pull the trigger, you'll see that notch come up right there. You'll see that notch come up. And with a Kahr, you don't really carry a Kahr cocked and locked. When you load the entire Kahr up and you put one in the chamber and you rack it back, you're not actually keeping the striker to the back of the firearm. That notch actually sits right here. And when you pull the trigger, this pulls the striker back. And as you can see, it'll slowly pull and then slide under. See how it goes under? And when it slides under, what that does is that causes the striker to release forward and the weapon's fired. So it's an interesting mechanism, the way that the Kahr works. Another thing about the Kahr that I've had issues with is feeding and firing the weapon in general, and I think some of it has to do with this unique barrel design. The main difference between the Kahr CW series and the PM series is that the CW series uses a cheaper barrel, which is this piece right here, and they use polygonal rifling in their higher price barrels, which is like Glock. This is a standard traditional rifle barrel, like you'd see in any 1911 or any other rifled weapon. They say polygonal fouls less, and you have to clean this more, but this is cheaper to make, and this is their base model entry gun, so this is what you get. One of the things they've done here is they've polished the feed ramp. This is how it came stock. And one of the things I want to show you is the steepness of the feed ramp. One of the issues that I possibly think may be one of the issues with its feeding problems. Now if we just find a magazine for this. Still looking. Here we go. Magazine. Okay. So inside the firearm, this is going to sit like this, like that. Inside the firearm you have your magazine, and then you have your feed ramp. Well, the magazine actually is going to feed the bullet up into this feed ramp, and the bullets behind actually push, and when you strip this back, this will actually rack forward and slide this up the feed ramp into the barrel and then into the chamber of the weapon, like so. The problem that I'm running into here that I think is the big issue with the gun is the steepness of that feed angle ramp. I mean, that is really, really, really steep. So, I mean, the bullet has to almost, look, there's a space, and then it kind of jams it to the top of the barrel and has to slam in there. I don't know if that's the issue with this, but I had feed problems with it. I've read feed problems with it, and I have no problem firing any of my other firearms, and for some odd reason I can't get this one to work very efficiently. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and see if we can pause this video here. Nope, I just took a picture. So I'm going to go ahead and have the camera off while I go ahead and put this thing back together real quick. Well, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm just going to keep talking. One of the things about this that I want to say is that it does not have a captive recoil spring. What that means is that this guide rod here, it works more like a 1911 where it's actually 3 separate pieces, and that makes it a little bit more of a pain in the butt to kind of put back together, especially for new shooters. But it does go back together much like any other gun does, minus that captive recoil spring. Push in there, you lock it down, all of a sudden it looks much like a Glock. Take your polymer frame here, you line it on the plastic slide rails, bring it back. See, now this is an issue. All I did was put it together, and I can't seem to... See, I don't understand what's wrong with that. Now look, see how it won't come apart? So, everything's together. There's nothing wrong with the feedness of the gun. I don't understand why. And sometimes it does it. Sometimes it doesn't. Quality, right? Kahr quality. And see, to me, this alone is a reason not to buy a firearm. If you can't get a firearm that you can, you know, put back together with relative ease, let alone take apart with relative ease, there may be a problem with the firearm itself. Maybe the fact that this is plastic. So let's take it apart, because maybe I did something wrong here. It's pretty straightforward, but hey, who knows, right? Okay. Okay, so it went back together that time. So now, quickly, before we have another issue with this, let's put this thing back together. Okay, so, get this thing back here. So now that we've had issues putting the weapon back together, I wanted to go over my thoughts about this with its magazines. So this, once again, it's a single stack magazine. It is a very thin firearm and it is very light, but you sacrifice magazine count. It carries 8 rounds of 9mm, which I don't want to get into the placement versus caliber war with some people, but to me, if you're going to carry something that's, you know, this big anyways, why not just go grab something like Glock 26, because you're going to get 10 rounds with the Glock. Realistically, even if you stack 2 on top of each other, I mean, you're not talking about that much bigger for, you know, 3 extra rounds. So, for what it's worth, the Kahr, to me, 3 out of 10. Easy. Would not buy. Definitely going to sell it.